Hey guys, welcome back to Medical Coding with Blue. Today's episode is all about those aftercare codes, okay? We're just going to talk about organic conditions today. We're going to address injury aftercare tomorrow, okay? I figure if we can do these little breakdowns, it'll be easier. Quiz Friday is going to be all about these follow-ups and aftercare and things like that. So at least this way we can just sort of talk it out today for the next 2 days, and then like Friday we'll be able to apply it into exercises. Now, these are just my opinions. These are not the opinions of anybody else, okay? These are the things that have helped me as a coder, so I'm just passing them along to you guys, okay? Now, whenever I talk about organic conditions, okay, what I mean is anything that's going on in the body, anything that is causing problems in the body, like for example, appendicitis, gallstones, what is it, carpal tunnel, cubital tunnel, osteoarthritis. These things are organic conditions, okay? The body is doing this, okay? Nothing, happened to them. They weren't injured. These are just organic conditions, okay? So what does the aftercare look like if they've had a surgery for any of these conditions, okay? That aftercare is going to look like aftercare following surgery 4, okay? And then there's a whole list of each one's like specifically broken down. They have for orthopedic aftercare, they have neurological conditions, which cubital tunnel, carpal tunnel, those are neurological conditions because they fall under the G codes, okay? When you're looking at which aftercare code do I select, look at the section that the diagnosis is in, okay? And then look and see if there's an aftercare code that corresponds with that specific chapter, okay? So like your M codes for your musculoskeletal conditions, okay, obviously is orthopedic aftercare. So that's a good way to look at it. If you're not really sure, check out coding clinics, okay, to see if well, what does this fall under? Obviously, if it's a respiratory, or if it's a genitourinary, things like that, you just look at those diseases, right? And then you see if there's a specific aftercare code for that when they've had a surgery, like a major surgery, like a 90-day global surgery for that. So all through those 90 days, any visits they have post-surgical, right? You're going to look at what date they had the surgery, and then you're going to go from there so you can look and see how many of those visits are related, when they're coming back in. If they're related to the surgery, okay, are they still in the global package? Make sure you look at that. Look at the dates, okay. Then you would also use any dressing changes, any stitch removals, because those are permissible to code with that specific aftercare, whatever aftercare it is, okay. So if it was just a orthopedic aftercare, and it, say for instance they had osteoarthritis in their right knee and they had a surgery on it, they had an arthroscopy, and so they close them up, and they're there for their post-op follow-up, and they're just changing the dressing and they're removing the sutures. You would be able to code orthopedic aftercare, removal of sutures, removal of or changing of dressing, surgical dressing, as long as it is documented, okay? So make sure that everything that you're picking up is documented, okay? So that would be that for like something that's organic, those organic conditions. Same thing with aftercare for like neurological conditions. If they're changing the dressing, like for a carpal tunnel, it would be the aftercare following surgery for a neurological condition, and then if they're changing the dressing change, and then the suture removal if they're doing that as well. So that's just something to keep in mind. Z codes, beget Z codes is how I think of it. So again, I'm going to be talking about injury aftercare tomorrow, so I'm not going to dilute the two, okay? I'm just going to talk about one thing at a time. So what happens after they've gotten out of their global period and they've done all their PT and they're coming back 6 months later for a follow-up for this organic condition, okay? Then that would be when, if they're completely healed, okay, this is the perfect scenario, okay? If they're completely healed and there's nothing else going on with this patient, basically they've done really well from the surgery, it would be the Z09, and then it would be the history of, depending on what it is, okay? They have a history of other specified. So you could use that if you couldn't find anything else to describe the history of, okay? And be sure to look at those history of codes, because there's plenty of them there. So however specific you can get is what you want to be able to apply to that situation, okay? But yes, that's when you would have that follow-up code if there's nothing else going on with the patient, plus the history of, okay? History of whatever, however specific you can get it, okay? So that's it on that one. And like I said, Friday, Quiz Friday is going to be all about that. So if it doesn't make sense now, or if it's a little confusing now, that's okay. When we go over it again on Quiz Friday and you start practicing, and then you'll start to get it. Like sometimes it doesn't click right away. I know for me, some things did not click right away. When I was working with E&M levels 2, when I was in school, that didn't click right away either. I literally had to read the whole book. And even as I was reading the whole book, it was just like, this still doesn't make sense, but I'm just going to go with it. So sometimes you just have to kind of go with it, okay? So remember, anything that is organic is going, and if they've had a surgery for it, like a major 90-day global surgery, it is going to have that aftercare, and then as specific as you can get it, okay? So, easy as pie, right? So I said that today to one of my providers, and she was like, well, you know what? I can't cook, so I'm just going to have to take your word for it, okay? And I started laughing. I was like, well, but, I mean, if you don't necessarily have to take my word for it, okay? If you want to do more research, a Coder Desk Reference, which is a beautiful little book, and I don't have it here because it's at the office, but it's this beautiful little book that you open it up and it describes all of the diagnosis, and it puts it into layman's terms, and it talks about what it covers, and it describes the code. And so I love this book because I cannot tell you how many times this little book has bailed me out, okay? Because it helps when you understand what the code actually means. Because as I've said before, a lot of times when you're looking up these codes, what it's the code that you are selecting doesn't match the description. Like plantar fasciitis comes to mind because it comes up plantar fascial fibromatosis, right? But actually, plantar fasciitis is covered under that code. So if you're looking up plantar fasciitis, you're not going to be able to find it, but you can find plantar fascial fibromatosis, okay? Which is the code that is for the plantar fasciitis as well. So don't ask me why they don't have two different codes for that. I have no idea. That's somebody else's brainchild. So, but yeah, that's something that, it really helps to understand. And the Coder Desk Reference does talk about that particular code as well, because it covers everything, So it's a handy little book. It's a Coder Desk Reference. So just be sure to look into that and see if it'll help you. Any online retailer that sells books should have it. Of course, I found mine. I got mine through, I forget where I got mine. I think I may have gotten it off of eBay. I think so. Yeah, I think I did. Oh well. But yeah, so I mean, just be sure to check that out. It's worth it to invest in these tools, these other books that will help you as a coder to grow and learn more. And if you are in school still, I'm sorry. I know you must be thinking, what the heck? I have more books to read. It's just a reference, it's just a resource. And trust me, it will be just like a medical dictionary, okay? Which is a wonderful resource because, it has all the words and the definition of everything in there. So it's just like that, you know what I mean? It's a very good, solid resource. You can use it if you need to argue in an argument about your coding, These are wonderful resources to defend yourself. Okay, so yeah, that was pretty much it. I did that, and yeah, that was it. Tomorrow I will be talking about the injuries. Okay, because I didn't want to muddy the waters too much. I didn't want to just sort of run everything in. Okay, just wanted to talk about that today. All right. Today after work, my car starts pinging at me that she needs oil change. And I'm like, really? Because I had looked, and I do take very good care of my car. I love my car. She has a name. Her name is Sasha. And I like to make sure that she stays up on maintenance and everything. So I'm not one of those ones that lets her go, too far. But she was pinging at me. She needed an oil change. So I stopped and got an oil change today. And the ladies were confused because they were like, she's not showing that she needs to have a oil change. And I'm like, well, I mean, she's pinging that she needs an oil change. So then they were able to figure it out. It was something in their system. It was showing that she still had 2,000 miles. But then when they looked at it and they scanned her, she was like, oh, wait a minute. I guess you are due for an oil change. So I'm like, whatever. I'm just going off. I'm just going off of what my app tells me on the phone, because can I look up the oil on the dipstick? Sure, I can, because a few years ago I had a pickup truck, and I had a Silverado. It was my first Silverado, and I'm a Chevy girl, okay, and but this truck was older. I mean, when I got her, she had, the pickup truck had like 77,000 miles on it. So it wasn't too bad, And, she was a good truck. She lasted a good long while. And, it was just nice. I mean, I don't mind driving a bigger vehicle, But after a while, because she was an older truck, I had to check the oil and make sure everything was okay. So I would literally have to climb up, and I'd have to stand on the bumper. Don't judge me, okay? I am short, okay? So I had to stand on the bumper, and I had to lean in, and I had to pull the dipstick and check the oil, and then fill it with water if of course fill the oil if it needed oil, but fill the water tank with coolant. Had to do that. And it was an experience to have a truck like that. And of course I would come out and like my hands would be all like covered in black whatever, and grease and all this other stuff, and I'm like, oh, but this is one of those things that I had to learn to do, and before it was somebody else always took care of it for me. I never had to do it. My mom took care of it, and then after a while I had to learn to do it myself. So when my mom passed away, I had to learn to do it on my own. So that was it was an experience, and it's good that I knew how to do it. Do I want to do it now? No. So but whatever, at least I know I can do it if I need to. The only thing I cannot do is change a tire, which is probably not a good thing because I've never had to change a tire before. But you see these nails? These are natural nails, and I cannot. I would break every last one of them. They're strong. Like I said, they're natural. I've always had long nails, but that's probably one thing I should have learned how to do is change a tire. But oh well, that's what I have on store for now. They can take care of it, And so anyway, but yeah, that was it. And then I had a pretty good day at work. Very productive. Oh, So I turned in my deep dive audits that I had for a provider, and I will be doing a separate episode on how I do my education with providers. I'm just thinking of how to present it to you all, because I think that it is important to share. That's one of the things that with medical coding, we're all about, how do we select the codes? How do we do this? How do we do that? But if you have to do any sort of interaction with providers, that's not really trained anywhere, So it's really on the coder themselves, And like I said, if you were like me, you're like, oh, I didn't know that these providers would even want to listen to anything that I said. I'm trying to think of the best way to deliver this to you all. So give me some time, and I'll work on another episode, because I did do one where I talked it through, but again, I think I may have to use another camera, because this one, like, if if I show you something in writing, it's flipped, and I have not been able to figure out how to flip it over. So I have to use my camera, and I've used my camera before on my earlier episodes, way back from last year. So I will pull that out, and when I get the lesson going, I'll be sure to give it to you guys. So but yeah, I finished my audits. I got them back, and she was like, okay, well, I need you to type it up, and I need you to make it look this way. She's like, I really like that you cited your resources, and you printed off, these things that support, your code selections, the codes that you did have to change, because it's more specific or whatever. So she did like that. So I was like, okay, cool. So I'll be doing that tomorrow. Just prettying it up so that she can approve, and then I can meet with my provider. I've already set a meeting with him in August, so I told him I'm excited. I saw him today, and he was like, well, how come you didn't let me see him? Because it's a surprise. So that happened, and then I had another provider who, this provider likes to fight me. He doesn't like to do things like I ask, like anytime I query him or whatever, I'm not doing it, Blue. I'm not doing it. He'll tell me that. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing it. I'm not doing what you say. So I was like, okay, you don't have to. And then he's like, well, I just think this is ridiculous. I said, I know. But, I have to tell you, I have to educate you. I have to be able to tell you and explain to you why did I change this code, because it's not as specific, And he's like, well, I'm not going to do what you say. And I was like, okay, well, then don't then. And then he goes, well, then what? And I said, well, then I get in trouble because, it looks like I'm not doing my job, And he's like, well, you just tell them I said. I was like, okay, well, sir, just letting you know, I do have 20 other providers that I have to tend to. 20. That's 20 different attitudes. That's 20 different mindsets. That's 20 different personalities that I got to deal with, okay? So if I've told you and we've had this discussion and I have it in writing and you're still refusing to do it, then don't do it then, okay? But I know that I did what I had to do. And if I still get reprimanded, at least I have proof that I did try to tell you, And he says, so I said, okay, and he wasn't like, I mean, I wasn't ugly, he wasn't ugly, but that's just the way he is. He's he it's his world. So I said, okay, whatever. And I just left it alone, you know what I mean? Because sometimes they're going to fight you, and they, I don't know if it's, they just want to know that they can argue, and eventually, they'll do what they want to do anyway. And so it's like, okay, well, if you don't want to, then don't. It's to your benefit, but if you don't want to do it, that's fine. I can't force you. And so we had this conversation last week, and then today I was working on his stuff, and of course, he had improved greatly. And so I was just like, I went over to him and I said, sir, he goes, what did I do wrong? What now? And I was like, no. Let's just relax. I said, you did everything right. I said, thank you for answering the query, and thank you for, doing what you're supposed to do. And then he's like, and so it's just like, okay, but whatever, and he comes up to me and he says, "Do they really get after you because I'm not doing what I'm supposed to do?" I said, "Yeah, they do." I said, because we're all supposed to be working together. This is stuff that has been, you've had during training, and if you're still not doing it, they come to me and they ask me why. Rather than go to you, they're going to ask me why, because I'm the coder. He's like, "Wow, I didn't know that." I was like, "Yeah." And so, sometimes, to me, it's you got to pick and choose your battles with your providers, and sometimes you got to learn what makes them tick. Obviously, he knows, and he's even said to me, he's like, "Well, I have to give you a hard time." And I said, "Oh, of course, you can't just do, He's like, no, I can't just do what you want right away. Of course not, And I think that's just part of his personality, and it's something that I've come to learn to work with. But like I said, we're not ugly with each other, it's just banter, I think, at this point. And but he did, and he's really improved, and he was one of the ones that I had inherited last year. And oh boy, he used to fight me for everything. And then after a while, it was like, "Okay, I'll work with you. But he goes, "No, I still have to put up a fight." I was like, of course, you gotta street cred. So, but it was good to see his documentation improve even more today. So I was like, okay, this is good. We've made progress. So, a happy coder, a very happy coder today. This makes me extraordinarily happy. Anytime I can break through to any of my providers, it's a good day. So, anyway, I will go ahead and wrap this up because I'm getting long-winded and it's getting late. So again, I've been filming today, but I've been also running around. So, well, I will see y'all tomorrow on tomorrow's episode. So if you're a medical coder, a medical coding student, somebody curious about the fascinating world of medical coding, a provider or a nurse, I invite you to like and subscribe and follow me on my journey in medical coding. All right. Well, I will see y'all tomorrow. Bye.